Good afternoon and welcome to the 3rd of August 2026 Open Council Workshop. This is a really important council workshop because of the items we have listed, but also it's our genuine hope that people can see this as contributing to being open and accountable. So once a month we have an open workshop discussing some of the things that we would normally discuss in our workshops. In the spirit of transparency, I've already said that part, so this is just to give the community an insight into our decision-making processes. So in council workshops, we get a lot of information around the topical issues that we might be having to make a decision on later in the official monthly council meeting. It gives us time to consider all of the choices that we have and also to discuss it amongst ourselves to see if there's some way we might improve the motion and give us a chance to come to terms with how we're thinking about what is in the best interest for the council. I begin by acknowledging the Muwinina people as the traditional owners of this land and recognising the Tasmanian Aboriginal people as the original owners and continuing custodians of the lands and waters of this island, Lutruwita. I pay my respects to Aboriginal elders past and present. Glenorchy City Council is committed to working in a way that welcomes and respects all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Joining me in council chambers are Alderman Peter Riddler, Alderman Justin Stringer, Councillor Molly Kendall, it says here, Alderman Tim Marks, thank you. We have the Acting CEO, Luke Chu, we have Alderman Stephen King, we have Alderman Stuart Slade, and we have Alderman Shane Alderton. My name is Sue Hickey and I'm the Mayor of the Council. We do have an apology today from the Deputy Mayor, Alderman Russell Yaxley, and also from Alderman Josh Cocksharp. Tonight we have two sessions, one on the natural areas engagement and the second on a really important issue, homelessness. Tonight I usually start, with an update to all elected officials just to bring them up to speed with what's happened during the week, and we're happy to share that. So the first one is an update on the pool. Council has appointed a contractor to undertake the front entrance works, which will start later this month and take around 4 weeks to complete. The pool has just had another coat of paint over the weekend with the fine weather. The painting is due to be completed this week, weather permitting. Council officers are working with a local artist to design an aquatic-themed mural for the front and side wall of the pool building. The pool will be a wonderful addition to brighten up, the mural will be a wonderful addition to brighten up the entrance to the pool. Now, more fabulous news, the Youth Hub. This is really important because we spent a lot of time trying to get a Youth Hub here in Glenorchy, and it is doing so well. It's really identified a gap where we're able to help young people. Strong participation continued at the Youth Hub during July with 20 sessions delivered over the month. A total of 736 attendances were recorded across both the after-school drop-in sessions and the school holiday programs. Participants had an average age of 14.6 years, demonstrating strong engagement from young teens. The after-school program consistently attracts high numbers of young people with 496 attendances over 11 sessions. The school holiday program maintained good engagement, providing a safe and accessible space for young people during the break. During this time, there were 9 drop-in sessions with 240 attendances recorded. Last Thursday, members of the Glenorchy Police, including Inspector Klug, paid a visit to the Youth Hub where they spent time getting to know the young people in attendance and challenging them to a game or two. Happy to tell you that that young girl thrashed Inspector Klug at table tennis, also at shuffleboard. Northern Magpies Cricket Club. The Glenorchy Cricket Club has grown into the Northern Magpies and will now encompass Brighton, Derwent Valley, Southern Midlands and Central Highlands. Importantly, Glenorchy very much remains the club's foundation and home. This is a positive move that expands sporting participation opportunities to a wider range of people, grows development pathways and will also assist with the club's ongoing viability and long-term stability. Full Gear funding. Council's Full Gear program has received $56,000 in state government funding to support the continued delivery of a program for a further 12 months. This funding will help young people in our community to get their motorcycle licence in a safe and supportive environment. The program builds confidence, develops practical skills, and enables our young people to find meaningful opportunities and independence. This video is of one of the participants, Kai, and it demonstrates the value of this important program.
Hi, my name's Kai. I've just done the Full Gear program. I want to say a little bit about it. I was just hanging out in Glenorchy playing a bit of basketball, and Willie just asked me, he was like, "Oh, do you want your bike licence?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'd love my bike licence." And then he's just like, "Oh, I've got this course if you're keen to do it." I said, "Yeah," and he's booked me into the course and done that for me. So you need to go to the Buchan Community House just for a week or two. He runs through just the road rules and just safety stuff, what can happen on a bike, how easy it is to get injured and everything like that. Just making sure. Then that just runs you through all that. Then you come down to wherever your closest council is, and then do your pre-learners test to get your roadworthy. Then you go to a bike course like Upright, and then you do a two-day course there, and that's about it. Yeah, it's important to learn the road rules, because if you don't really know how to ride properly on the road, it's that easy to get hit by another car. If you don't know how to stop properly in an emergency, then like you're coming straight off the bike and you're going to be injured badly. So, it's real good to get that course done so then you don't injure yourself or other people. Got a shout out to all the people from Full Gear and helping me get my licence, being on the road and everything like that. Feel a lot more safe as well.
So that's another wonderful program run by your council. It's been running for some time, and our community development team are so behind it and managed to get that extra funding so we continue that great work. Having a licence obviously is good for self-confidence, but it also can give access to jobs. Now the next story is about the new toilet at Poimina Reserve. Our new, clean and accessible toilet facility that opened today will be making visiting Poimina Reserve Austin Ferry much more comfortable and convenient for families and park users and the wider community. And here we have a sneak peek of the new facility. Welcome to the Poimina Reserve. It's one of the gems in the city of Glenorchy, and I'm really proud to say that today we have just opened new toilets, new public facilities. So come up and have a look, bring the family, there's picnic spaces and all sorts of fun areas to run around with the kids. So here we are in the back room of this toilet. It's amazing. You come with me and we'll show you. Our council now is putting all of the parts that need fixing, making them more accessible. So they're all built in behind the actual loos. But let's go to the loos. Here is an example of what we call the family suite or the parents' room. So we have the change table. We also have the little loo if you've got some small person in the family. And of course, we have the deluxe model for those of us with a slightly bigger derriere. But you've got lovely clean facilities here. And it's all you could really want when you're up in a reserve.
3 beers.
This is a really great example when you've got little kids and you want to train them how to wash their hands after they've gone to the loo, a very important function. So our officers have thought of everything here. It's all practical, it's all easy, clean and very sanitary. Mum and dad can show how they're washing their hands, and the little one can wash their hands too.
Everybody knows that I'm a lover of loos and I love new loos or restored loos. It's most important. It's one of the most significant pieces of infrastructure for a city when you think about it. The number of times every person has to use a loo. So if you have to use a public loo, you want a nice, clean, safe, well-lit one. And I'm really proud today is the official opening of the Poimina Reserve loos. And so, with that, I'm going to do the obligatory cutting of the ribbon. Oh, officially opened.
Yeah, I thought we could have put some bidets.
Point of order here.
Sorry?
Corona Plum would love to have you. They're selling.
There's not a lot I don't know about public loos. I think I'm very normal. Point of order.
Well, I'm concerned someone will actually criticise that. Someone will be silly enough to criticise you showing off our toilets. And that would be
Goodness me,
absolutely
someone criticising me. What will they think of next?
well, just well done. Thank you to the staff for getting us good toilets out there.
Yeah.
It's a great thing. So,
As I said, one of the most vital pieces of infrastructure in a good city.
We got the water for it?
Sorry?
We got the water for it?
Yes. Last night saw our first Treasure Trail activation. I think that meant, last Friday night saw our first Treasure Trail activation event at the Moona Arts Centre, and it was called Feed It Yourself. DIY Daisy led a fun and engaging workshop where participants created a one-of-a-kind bag with charms using second-hand beads sourced from the op shops. Stay tuned for activation events that will be happening over the next 12 months to promote the Northeast Treasure Trail and all it has to offer. Now, some of the attendees have told me it was really a lot of fun, so that's great. On Saturday, Council teamed up with Carity, the Migrant Resource Centre, and AFL Play to host Kick It to the KG5. It was wonderful to be joined by so many community members to enjoy activities, food and entertainment on the front lawns to celebrate what makes our community so special: connection, inclusion and a shared love of AFL football. Today, Council hosted an event at the Youth Hub space to mark Awareness Week. Members of the Friendship Hub were treated to a delicious lunch and a presentation by 1000 Hearts founder Sarah DeJong. That was the luncheon. It was absolutely fabulous to see. And on the other table up this end were more people. A reminder to join us on Wednesday, the 5th of August from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to join us for a warm and welcoming community event to bring people together during the cooler months. Come to our Youth Hub space to enjoy a free hot lunch, live entertainment, family-friendly activities and to connect with local organisations offering practical support and advice and services. Also on Wednesday the 5th, come along to the Moona Arts Centre at 5:30 p.m. This is really important if you live in and around Moona or you shop there regularly. We want you to have your say on the future of the Main Road Moona installation of the proposed parklet trial. If you cannot make it to the forum, you can share your feedback online or on Let's Talk Glenorchy. That's really going to be a major improvement for Moona, we hope. The open workshop introductions. This afternoon we have 2 workshop sessions. Firstly, we'll hear from Ash Carden and Emily Smith from the Council's Natural Areas team, who will give us an update on how Council is working with volunteers, community groups, schools and environmental organisations to protect and enhance our natural values. Then Council Social Planning and Policy Officer Scout Winter will be joined by Tyson Montgomery from the City of Hobart's Housing with Dignity Reference Group, Chris Allen from the Streets to Home program, and Ben Hughes, Council's Safe City Lead, to talk to us about homelessness and how it affects our community. Firstly, over to Ash and Emily.
Hi everyone, I'm Emily, the Climate and Sustainability Officer at Council. I also just want to acknowledge the First Nations people that I'm presenting from today, so the Winyinga people and Palawa country. I'll be giving a bit of a brief overview of the Humphreys Rehabilitation Project. So this is funded through the Australian Government's Local Environment Program and also supported by Glenorchy City Council. So in short, the program aims to support conservation of threatened species and habitats, improve waterways and improve the community's access to nature. And Glenorchy Council was successful in receiving $1.69 million in the grant funding. So the rivulet goes 4.2 kilometres from the base of Mount Wellington down towards the River Derwent. And there are a couple of challenges with the project. So in some areas, the corridor is really narrow and it's landlocked by private residences. So that kind of adds a bit of complexity in access. There are also areas of really high weed coverage. So we're kind of talking about 100% weed coverage in some sections. And these have to be treated and then replanted in specific seasonal windows. Given it's an urban environment, there's also quite a bit of dumped rubbish, but within the project plan, we're going to be cleaning that up. To help with the project management and monitoring, we've split the rivulet into 8 zones, as you can see in that lower right image. And this is an example map on the left of one of those zones. So we've had some really good work done by an environmental consultant through a natural values assessment and a vegetation management plan. And that shows us exactly where the priority weeds are and then a guide for revegetation. The image on the right shows the weed burden across the site. So there's middle areas where it's red, that's the highest priority weed zones, and the green areas have less of a density. So this project's focused on rehabilitating the rivulet, mostly through weed control, so primarily focused on willows and blackberries, and then we'll be coming through and putting in some native plants to improve habitat and biodiversity values. There's also going to be an element of erosion control works with expert advice guiding the location and extent of that. Then we're also going to be looking at improving the community's access to nature, so that's most likely going to be at the falls, and we're going to have that rubbish removal element within the plan. So the rivulet's got lots of environmental and social values. It acts as a bit of a green corridor connecting the habitat from the mountain down to the river. There's been a number of several important fauna sightings over the years in the natural values assessment. In particular, there was an eastern foal earlier this year in the suburbs of in the streets of Glenorchy. Our bushfire mitigation officer recorded this video earlier this year of the platypus in the upper reaches of Humphreys, which is a bit of a success story. And on the right, this is an image of the falls from 1909 and from our heritage officer. And that postcard was made in Germany, came back to Australia, went to Estonia, and then back to Australia again. So there's a lot of really important history and value in the rivulet. So yeah, we're looking forward to rehabilitating it. So this project is about rehabilitation, but it acts as a bit of an important step in providing a native riparian corridor and improving community access to nature. Council also do have long-term plans for a shared path along the rivulet, and we're seeking funding to continue working towards that long-term vision. So why now? Well, we're seeing a lot of weed infestation along the rivulet. We actually had a top priority weed species located as part of these initial assessments, and our natural areas officer acted quickly on this before it was able to spread downstream. So when areas have lots of weed coverage, we see reduced biodiversity values and a less resilient ecosystem where other challenges can arise, like pests and diseases. So similarly, with increasing flood risk to the community, we need to do what we can to make our community safe and livable. So for the rivulet, this means that we're removing the crack willows, which we know alter the flow of the rivulets. So ultimately, it was the recognition of the project's value and then the Commonwealth funding that has enabled us to move ahead with the project. This is a multi-year project with weed control scheduled for spring to summer, and we're going to be guided by that natural values assessment and the vegetation management plan, and we'll be working with contractors to prioritise the weeding and re-veg locations. As it's a fairly big environmental project, we're also collecting a range of data to compare the initial and post-implementation changes. So what we're looking at are the water quality, presence of freshwater invertebrates, and weed coverage over time. This is a really simple overview of the project plan. So we're currently in the end stages of phase 1, where we're collecting the last of the baseline data and receiving advice to guide different elements of the project. Soon we'll be in stage 2, where that bulk of the on-ground works is happening. So that's the weed control, re-veg, erosion works. And then towards the end of the project, we'll be getting some more data again and comparing and doing the final handovers. We're expecting to see a drastically reduced weed coverage across the site, particularly those blackberries and the willows. Through the erosion works, we're going to be seeing less sediments in the rivulet, increasing biodiversity and supporting the fauna and flora. And for the community, we're aiming to improve access and the shared use of the rivulet, particularly around Humphreys Falls. So through rehabilitating the rivulet, the foundational works have been achieved to lead to future maintenance and projects. That's it from me.
Thank you.
Well done.
Do we have any questions from the floor? Oh, sorry, Shane.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, weed removal, I guess that's tedious and, being removed by hand, I would suspect you wouldn't surely be using herbicides, would you?
There's a range, there's a range of approved measures that can be taken. So we'll be guided through those 2 plans that we've got. So those are done by environmental consultants who work in the industry, and they'll follow the right environmental legislation to make sure it's all the right stuff.
Are you using any herbicides or not?
I anticipate that we would be using herbicides. Yeah.
My concern was the herbicides getting into the waterway, that was all.
Yeah. No, that's a valid thought. So there are different types of herbicides that can be used near waterways that have that aren't known to have an impact in the waterways.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? No? Do we have any questions from the floor?
I do have a question there.
Yes.
Humphreys Rivulet. Have we got our cage back yet? We re-caged our cage where the aluminium got taken down the bottom to catch all the rubbish.
Maybe the trap.
The trap? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so that working through with insurance to get those replaced.
Right.
But we didn't get it back.
Didn't get it back, no, won't get it back.
No. Well, thank you very much. That was beautiful, and also, you know, you're preserving a sanctuary of the environment for generations to enjoy. So thank you. I really appreciate that. Okay, and now we're going to have Ash, and you're going to talk about our natural areas volunteering, another exciting part of the council.
Yeah, hi everyone, I'm Ash Carden. I'm a Natural Areas Engagement Officer here, been here for about 3.5 years. I have the pleasure of giving you an overview of our Bush Care program, which is our community engagement program in our natural areas. Thank you all for being here to listen, and everyone online as well. So, we have in Glenorchy an area of 121 kilometres squared. It boasts a variety of open spaces and natural areas, including 4,000 hectares of Wellington Park, which spans several peaks and waterways. Further down the slopes, urban and industrial-based municipal parks and reserves such as Poimina, Catherine Street, Jim Bacon, Amy Street and Lutana Woodlands also have important bushland and grassland remnants, many of which are threatened ecological communities. The city has over 30 kilometres of the Derwent River foreshore, which includes rare salt marsh communities and coastal shrublands. These provide important habitat for native wildlife. The city contains over 500 species of plants, including over 50 threatened species of plants and animals, including the eastern barred bandicoot, Tasmanian devils, wedge-tailed eagles, and more. It also has a diverse range of tracks and trails, heritage features, and significant Aboriginal and European landmarks. Our Bush Care program seeks to link community members passionate about these values with opportunities to connect with nature, care for country, socialise, exercise, and with the bonus of helping us deliver environmental outcomes and obligations. So this map shows sort of where we have active land care groups and active bush care projects. So we're pretty well covered. In Wellington Park, we have Friends of Wellington Park. I couldn't really do a label that included the whole of Wellington Park. So we've got good coverage. There's a huge amount of environmental work is contributed by our volunteers. And I just want to say thank you for their time and dedication. So these stats refer to the last 12 months or the last financial year, so July 2020 2025 to June 2026. We had 129 different volunteer events, which is an average of 2.5 per week. We had over 1,000 separate volunteer sign-ons, over 3,000 hours of volunteer time contributed to our natural areas, nearly 2,500 native plants across 11 locations, 3 educational walk and talks. We had fire ecology in Lutana Woodlands and Amy Street Reserve, where we intend to introduce ecological burning. One on salt marsh ecology at Windermere Bay, and one where we traversed Moona Reserves exploring history, nature and a sense of place. So it's actually 4. These talks are really popular in the community. We also engage with schools. Above all these, there's countless benefits: community belonging, ownership, health, environmental connection, and many more. This is a breakdown of what we spend our time doing, and the main note here is the majority of our activities are planting, weeding, and our boxthorn biochar control project at Prince of Wales Bay, which I'll go into a bit later. Each volunteer event only goes for 2 to 4 hours, and often groups only meet as little as once per quarter. So even though the results are really incremental, over the 3 years that I've been here, you can see them really adding up to some major outcomes for our natural and recreational areas. These graphs, just quickly, show the trends over the last, well, since records began that I can find at the council. The number of bush care events is the first blue ones, that's going up. The number of volunteer sign-ons and the number of volunteer hours contributed. Everything is increasing. In 2022, there was 37 events where volunteers contributed 775 hours of their time. And in 2026, just over halfway through the year, we've already had 94 events, and volunteers contributed nearly 1,800 hours of time. So it's massive growth. In July, so last month, July 2026 sets the record for all of these in Glenorchy's bush care history. So yeah, this is phenomenal growth, which I think shows that there's a growing community interest in bush care events, people wanting to get out there and care for the environment, and it shows that with the right support, yeah, people are really keen to contribute. So I'm going to go through the groups just quickly. We have our Brent Street Reserve Land Care. They're in the reserve on the corner of Brent Street up the top. It's a small reserve and a small group, but again, over time, they've managed to make a massive difference in the reserve, mainly removing dumped rubbish and dumped garden weeds. The Chigwell Community Garden, that's our newest group. We took that on in April this year. Currently, the numbers for that on the Wednesday gardening days are a little low, so we're trying to put our heads together and think about how we can increase numbers there. We have the weekly play group on Thursdays, which is really popular with young families, and we're going to use this garden as a base for community and environmental workshops and arts as well. So we've got Grow It Local that will be kicking off here this spring. We'll have a sort of opening event for that there, and we hope to have the community come to us to host events there too. This is a video so you can get an insight to what the garden's like. So the next one is Claremont Coast Care. Their area is between Cadbury and Mona up on the coast, and they, for the last couple of years, have had a major focus on revegetation of the foreshore at Windermere Bay, which again, with the incremental plantings, it's really looking lovely down there. Along with plantings done by Cadbury, conservation volunteers are doing an estuary program, and with the council's tracks and trails upgrades in the area, it's starting to look really good there, and we've received multiple comments from the public on how amazing the area is looking, so it's well worth a visit. If you haven't been down there lately, it's looking a bit different. Conservation Volunteers Australia, we have a fantastic partnership with. They come and volunteer for us regularly on 3 main projects in Glenorchy. We've got Whitestone Point native revegetation, increasing habitat for bandicoots. We have the Goulds Lagoon buffer planting, which is creating habitat for nesting birds in between the lagoon and the road, and developments up there. And Prince of Wales Bay Biochar Project, which again, I'll go into in a little bit. Yes, they celebrate events like World Environment Day, NAIDOC Week, and National Tree Day with different groups. And they're great. They bring a lot of volunteers, and often volunteers from all around Hobart, because Conservation Volunteers operates all around Hobart. So it's good to get people who aren't from Glenorchy here to help as well. I've got the video next. Yeah, so this is an example of an event that they did to celebrate NAIDOC Week last year. So Conservation Volunteers got Trish Hodge from Nita Education to do a Welcome to Country for that NAIDOC event, and we planted 160 native plants. This year we're continuing along the coast there, that's Prince of Wales Bay. We have a group in Collinsvale, based in the recreation reserve up there near the dog park. They focus on track building and maintenance, educational workshops, weeding, planting, litter picking, and nature journaling. They have also worked with Collinsvale Primary School to bring them into the reserve to do a tree planting day there as well, around the BMX track, so that they've got future shade, which is lovely. Friends of Wellington Park. They're our longest standing group that's been running for over 20 years now. They work with the City of Hobart, Parks and Wildlife, and Wellington Park Management Trust, and Glenorchy City Council to cover Wellington Park. They do lots of track work and weed control. They recently helped us with surveys of Daphne Laurel, which is a priority weed. It's been targeted by the Tasmanian Government's Weed Action Fund. Collinsvale has one of 4 infestations of this upcoming weed. So the goal is to eradicate it. And we used Friends of Wellington Park as a grid search. We all got in a line that spanned about 30 metres and walked the boundary of Wellington Park, so we can make sure that that weed hasn't jumped the fence from Collinsvale up into Wellington Park. And we didn't find any, which was great. That's just one example of how our bush care program can really have tangible outcomes for serious weed threats and obligations the council has to control them. Through Friends of Wellington Park, Glenorchy City Council and City of Hobart Council run an annual joint event in July. We put on a nice lunch and get a guest speaker to speak on an interesting topic. We've done it for 4 years now, and it's held in the gully at the Riding for the Disabled land on Killang Avenue, which this land is owned by the City of Hobart, but it sits within Glenorchy, so it's a perfect space to run this sort of event, and we invite all of the volunteers from both councils to come along. This year we planted 180 native plants in the gully and had a guest speaker, Corinne Ooms, who came second in the last season of Alone, and who's here. Hi, Corinne. And she actually co-runs a different bush care group in Glenorchy, so Tassie. We've got the Goodwood Gardeners. They formed into 2023, and they're sort of based in Goodwood and on the foreshore there. They had a bit of a break, but they're now returning, and they are really advocating for urban greening and nature strip planting in Goodwood. Lutana Woodlanders and Weeders. This is our most frequent group. They meet twice a month, and as well as a quarterly weekend event. They have the goal of getting the native threatened grassland at Lutana Woodlands officially listed, so that it's protected going forward. Their main tasks are weeding invasive grasses, thinning the canopy, and planting for diversity. These are all thresholds that we have to meet for the grassland to be listed. So, for example, for it to be officially a grassland, it has to have less than 5% canopy cover. So they're the sorts of things that we're working towards. Lutana Woodlands is one of the reserves that we are going to introduce ecological burning into, hopefully this year or next, just depending on weather windows and things like that. This is a management practice that's been absent from the reserve for years, but will promote biodiversity within the grassland. Moon and Nature Mates runs activities in Jim Bacon Reserve, Amy Street Reserve, and Gerard Street Reserve. And their main focus is on increasing biodiversity and conservation of threatened communities and species within Moona. So the middle picture there, that blue spiky plant is called Blue Devil, and it's threatened species that's found in Jim Bacon Reserve in massive numbers. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, you can go have a look. We're very lucky in Glenorchy to have many gems like this that not everyone realises they're under their nose where they walk their dog every day. The Newtown Rivulet Platypus group is a fairly new group as well. They work both with the City of Hobart and Glenorchy City Council on different sides of the Newtown Rivulet. Their activities are aimed at promoting habitat for platypus. There's been plenty of platypus spotted in the rivulet, so things like planting to increase river shade and invertebrate habitat link on to then the platypus. They've done 3 plantings so far, one opposite Hobart High, one at the Newtown Rivulet mouth as part of the big restoration project that we did there last year, and just recently one at the base of Gerard Street on Creek Road. Northern Suburbs Land Care Group, which are on Montrose Reserve on the corner of Pitcairn Street. There's a rivulet running through there. They have removed masses and masses of weeds and masses of rubbish. It's a very steep hill, so it's somewhere that people just sneak around to the cul-de-sac at the back and throw their things off. But that's another one where, although they're still finding a bit of rubbish, it's very much improved from what it was before anyone was showing it any love. They put hundreds of native plants in there. It's a very difficult site, very dry. So, you know, the dogged determination is paying off, and they're really transforming that place too. And the Tasmanian Student Land Care Association, these guys travel all around Tasmania doing conservation jobs, and when they're not busy studying, They come and help us out on our Prince of Wales Bay Boxthorn project as well. They're always a fun group to have out. Next is a video that just illustrates a little bit why people might choose to volunteer on our program.
Hi, I'm Corinne and I'm part of the Northern Suburbs Community Landcare Group.
My name's Helen Burnett. I'm an independent MP for the seat of Clark. I'm a volunteer at the Prince of Wales Bay Boxthorn Biochar project.
I'm Ben and I volunteer with the Newtown Rivulet Platypus Landcare Group.
I'm Cynthia. I work here with the volunteer with the Lutona Woodlanders.
So I started doing this because my garden was full of bone seed. Then I could see like the nature reserve was full of bone seed. Other people's gardens were full of it.
The reason why I got involved is because I really want to see ecosystems restored. We're in the decade of ecosystem restoration.
We got started when a whole bunch of different groups got together and wanted to kind of look after the ecology of this rivulet and sustain it into the future.
I came up here and they were working and I just volunteered with the group doing a positive planting in the grasslands here.
So I volunteer because it gets me out the house, it meet the neighbours and it gives me exercise, and it's nice to see our community and our areas look better.
We can cut these gnarly boxthorn weeds, set them aside to burn to make biochar, and then there are plantings to be done to restore the ecosystem habitat.
I've gotten to know the rivulet quite well over the decades, and on the one hand have always been a little bit concerned about areas that have been degraded, but on the other hand have had the privilege of enjoying this area as this little kind of corridor of natural area that has functioned at different times in my life as a kind of a third space.
I've all my life supported wildlife endeavours, signing petitions, donating money, and going on marches, and national and international events don't seem to have an outcome. Whereas if you actually take a plant and put it in the ground here with support from the council, water it, you can watch it bloom and you can see a positive outcome for your endeavours. It's very rewarding.
My favourite memory volunteering here is when we dragged the shopping trolley out the creek and the slope was so steep so we couldn't actually go down there and pull it up, so we had to winch it out with a ute. That was fun.
One of the favourite things I like about coming here is seeing the same volunteers but also new ones coming along, and once they get the project, how important it is to store carbon by capturing it when making biochar. People get it and they really enjoy it.
This area that I'm actually standing in was our first little planting last winter, so we're really proud of that. That's my favourite memory for sure. Hopefully there'll be more of those.
This is Maxwell, and what he does is he usually greets everybody as they come along. Favourite memory was on a very, very hot day. It was so hot that the dog actually gave up and just sat under the tree. And when we were done and we planted all the little herbaceous plants in and watered them in and put the little stakes in, it was just such a rewarding feeling.
You can see the passion shining through with those people. Community connections are a big part of my role, and luckily for me, the size and nature of Hobart makes it fairly easy to facilitate these connections and co-design projects and learn best practice and work together on issues that don't actually care about borders. So these are just some of the organisations that I've worked with over the years. Council. Corporate events are a great way to engage with new volunteers. For example, Taswater and Aurora have sent staff and people from their graduate programs to our Boxthorn Biochar project, and FedEx has been involved in several planting sites. We have lots of different project partners. So another example is the Derwent Estuary program with the Salt Marsh Reclamation Project. They worked with us and volunteers planting over 1,000 native plants over 3 community events as part of the project. We have a fantastic partnership with both Landcare Tasmania and Conservation Volunteers Australia, who provide volunteers from all over Hobart and co-design projects with us. Plenty of experts come from these places to run educational events. People from the Tasmanian Herbarium, the Department of Natural Resources and Environment, CSIRO, University of Tasmania, they're an estuary program, Tasmanian Land Conservancy, just to name a few. And we work closely with the staff from the Department of Natural Resources and Environment, Envirodynamics, and the Wellington Park Management Trust and CSIRO to tackle important projects like emergent weed threats and community education. One example is that we're working with CSIRO to set up community events releasing and monitoring biocontrol on box thorn to slow down its spread. We were the first location where the biocontrol was released in Tasmania. So I'm really excited to see where that goes. And finally, we also engage with schools, which is always a highlight, and the kids really love it because they get to get out of the classroom. I personally believe connecting children and young people with nature is a huge part of building environmental resilience into the future. And we have some exciting events happening this week. Tomorrow we're hosting 80 students from Dominic College who are planting in Prince of Wales Bay, and on Thursday, with organisation from Sustainable Timber Tasmania, we're hosting the school's National Tree Day at Windermere Bay, where another 85 students from Montrose Bay High School, Rosetta Primary and Windermere Primary will plant native plants on the coast. So I've got a pretty busy week. This video is an example of school's planting day. This is Rosetta Primary School's E-team, who have now met 6 times at the rivulet behind their school to pick up rubbish and plant natives and get their hands dirty. I have another little video here. So this is the Saltmarsh Reclamation Project. Glenorchy Council worked with the Derwent Estuary Program where they scraped back old infill to expose the lower level of the ground where the salt marsh used to be down at Windermere Bay. Volunteers were involved with the revegetation of the fringe of the salt marsh by planting a future woodland in the area. So over 1,000 grasses, herbs, ground covers, shrubs and trees were planted with Conservation Volunteers Australia and the Claremont Coast Care and other community volunteers over the last 2 years. And this is probably one of our most successful planting sites. The trees are doing really well there.
Hi, I'm Ursula from the Derwent Estuary Program, and behind me we're planting out a buffer of vegetation next to our class restoration. And we've had an excellent working relationship with the Glenorchy City Council, Conservation Volunteers Australia and the local community to trial the first time ever an urban passive restoration salt marsh project. And already we're seeing the tide is coming exactly to where we've scraped it back. and that will bring in the seeds and allow for the saltmarsh species to regenerate. So we're super excited to be finishing it off today with the planting.
Another project that we're proud of and I want to mention is the Boxthorn Biochar project. It's come up a few times already. We're working with Bill Harvey on this large project at Prince of Wales Bay. Prince of Wales Bay had a really bad boxthorn infestation all along the coast. Some had trunks, this big. I'm not sure when they were last controlled. It's a thorned weed. Thorns are about that long. And the softball club had requested us remove them because they kept losing softballs into the bushes and they couldn't go in and get them. It's also an invasive environmental weed that spreads along the coastlines in Hobart. So phase 1 of the project, we've spent over 2 years with volunteers cutting these bushes down and piling them up to dry out and get burnt. Phase 2 is using our biochar kiln to burn the boxthorn and use this as an opportunity to run workshops on biochar. These workshops aim to educate the community about biochar and encourage the home use of biochar kilns in fuel reduction and garden waste burns. So when you burn the green waste in this kiln, because of the shape and the way you burn it, it doesn't fully convert into ash, it creates biochar instead, which is kind of a halfway. This is a product that can be used in the garden to as a soil conditioner, as well as many other uses, which I won't get into right now. But it also sequesters carbon. So instead of that carbon being released into atmosphere as smoke, it's stored in the biochar. So this makes it an important tool for increasing climate change resilience, especially if through these workshops people start to use it in their homes and their backyards when they're doing fuel reduction burns. So far we've run 18 community biochar workshops there and produced 8,690 litres of biochar, which is nearly 14 tonnes of carbon kept from being released into the atmosphere. And the final stage is revegetating all that area where the boxthorn used to grow. So, yes, replacing the trees that we've removed with native trees so that the birds still have somewhere to nest and, the critters somewhere to go. So far, we've planted 2,645 native plants along the coast. This is also beautifying the area, making it a more pleasant place to walk. Eventually, there'll be less thorns for the cyclist. The difference that we've already made to this site, which was a bit neglected in the past, is staggering, and we're getting comments about this area too. It's another place that you should go and have a look if you haven't lately. I want to thank Bill Harvey and Conservation Volunteers Australia, the Tasmanian Student Landcare Society, and Brew Lab as well for all the support for this project. There's a few challenges when it comes to the bush care program. First is vandalism. We've had physical assault, motorbikes in the reserves being just generally threatening while we're there. We've had plants and guards ripped out on 3 different occasions. Our container gets broken into semi-regularly. And that can affect morale, but I think that taking action is the way to negate that sort of bad feeling that you get from that as well. So the other thing is increasing environmental pressures. Ever increasing pressures on nature mean that volunteers are under pressure to achieve more and more. One example is the future arrival of bird flu in Tasmania will have to change the way we work, and the introduction of new weeds to control. Annoying. Leader succession, when group conveners move on, it's always a delicate time for a volunteer group. Luckily, in my time, we've always had someone who's keen to step up and handle the torch. Volunteer numbers. As our bush care program is fairly full now, I'm trying to figure out how I can increase the number of people at the events that I already have instead of increasing the number of events that I'm running. So finding ways to reach new people that don't already know about it can be fairly difficult, but I work really closely with the communications team here at council. They help me make those videos. And to spread the word and celebrate our success. You've also got to keep the work meaningful so that people come back and they get the feeling that they are actually contributing. Resourcing, so increasing demands and costs put additional pressure on the program. Each year the demand for bush care activities keeps growing, which is great news, but more volunteers means more tools, time, and more biscuits are needed. So communications, the way that I try to spread the word is videos and reels, which you've seen a few of, and they go out onto our social media. I help groups run their Facebook groups and pages and email lists, and do letter drops and posters to get people who are in the reserves to try and get them to come along. But I wanted to just quickly touch on the last three on this list. So I've been doing a quarterly newsletter for a little while now. I've just released the latest one. These are a great way to celebrate progress and achievements, and for people interested, especially people in the volunteer groups, to know what the other groups are doing, because without telling them, they kind of think that they're on their own, but when they get a newsletter with everything, it can be really good for morale. And for the general public to find out about what the groups are doing. We recently created some natural areas volunteering flyers. So that's a catch-all for information about where and when the groups are, what to expect from the bush care program. And I've been slowly spreading those out around cafes and different places around Glenorchy. So hopefully people will come across it. Maybe someone who's got no idea that this whole program exists. And communications. So we receive feedback that it can be difficult to find out about our volunteering opportunities, as the information is spread across different groups and organisation Facebook pages, websites and email lists. So I'm working with the comms team to update our Natural Areas volunteering page on the Glenorchy website to make it a one-stop shop where all the different groups and organisations events can be found there, just in a big list so people know what's happening. Watch the space. Thank you. I want to thank all of my colleagues who help me running hundreds of events every year during weekends. I want to thank the other teams in council who come around after me and pick up little piles of rubbish and weeds that I leave absolutely everywhere. And thank you for listening today. I hope that someone out there will have listened to this and get in touch to find out how they can come and volunteer with me. Bush Care volunteers are a friendly group of people, and local volunteering is a great way to get outside, connect with nature, socialise with like-minded people, and have a positive impact on the special natural values we're lucky to have in our urban environment. Let me know if you have any questions.
Ash, that was extraordinary. Your work, you're so passionate, your whole team is passionate. And I've had the privilege of joining a couple of your groups, and just to see the energy and devotion of some of those dedicated volunteers. But you and your team in particular are doing the hard slog. You're not just standing there suggesting, dig this hole or dig that hole. You are there picking up the rubbish, digging the holes and giving great advice and help. And I'm immensely proud of what you're doing for the city and for our environment, and you're leaving an incredible legacy for our future. So anyone else like to make a contribution? Yes, thank you, Alderman King.
Thanks, Ash. Your team and acting CEO, the team that we have at council at the moment, the workforce is just incredible. The work that you're doing, the growth that we've had in our environmental repair with our creeks and our foreshore. I just think you said you've been in 3.5 years, and I was going to say this last term of council, which is 3.5 years, something must coincide there. So thank you so much for what you've been doing, you and ABC and everyone else there. That it's unbelievable compared to what it was 5-10 years ago, and we'll be. Again, another 5 years will be even better. So thank you so much and well done.
Alderman Alderton.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Ash. That was a great presentation. Recently we did a workshop out at Goulds Lagoon, and that's generating a lot of interest out there amongst the local community where I live out there, and also Whitestone Point. I've had a number of ratepayers and residents sort of approach me about how they can be proactive in land care out there, and they don't really know who to contact. So are you the person to contact the council?
Yeah.
So if I have people approach me, you're happy for me to put them in touch with you?
Yeah. It may be great to give you guys some of those flyers that I mentioned, because it's got all this information. If anyone asks you anything, it's all there and it's got the contact as well.
Yeah, well, until today I wasn't even aware of your newsletters, to be honest. So that's great. If maybe you can feed those to us somehow.
Yeah.
Through. Sure. Is there an emailing list? Is there an emailing list we can go on? Or?
Yeah, there is. I think I do get the newsletter sent to the elected members, but I'll just double check that. There is an email list that you can go on as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Councillor Kendall.
Thanks, and both excellent presentations. So thanks so much for your work. And it's great to see those graphs of volunteering going up, especially at a time where you often hear people say that no one's volunteering anymore. It just really shows there's a growing interest in, especially, young people, I guess. And thanks to the youngest member who's just exited from the chambers. But I was also going to say thanks to you, Ash, because I think your role as a connector amongst those land care groups is a real morale boost for them. So thanks for your work.
Any other feedback from the elected members? No? Does anyone from the floor want to comment? Are you impressed?
I'm extremely
Thank you.
amazed the amount you get through, the amount of the number of groups we're involved with, the sort of network that makes it so amazing.
So there you go. We're so much more than roads, rates and rubbish. We're about environment and feel good for the community. So thank you so much. We'll now move on to the Council's Social Planning and Policy Officer presentation. Does anyone know where Scout is? Oh, just that side? Okay, cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, Scout.
Hello. Pass the baton. Hi, everyone.
So we're now going to have a presentation, as I said before, from Scout Winter, who'll be joined by Tyson Montgomery of the City of Hobart's Housing with Dignity Reference Group, Chris Allen from Streets to Homes program, and Ben Hughes, the Council's Safe City Lead, to talk to us about homelessness and how it affects our community. So if I could ask Scout and Warren to do the introductions as they bring in the different teams.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, elected members, for taking time to join us today. Your presence and attention is greatly appreciated, particularly as we come together during National Homelessness Week to focus on the challenges and opportunities facing our Glenorchy community. Today's presentation is an opportunity to share the legacy of homelessness and housing affordability in our city, highlighting the work being undertaken across the sector and discuss how we continue to make a positive impact together. Scale will be joined by several special guests today. We thank them for sharing their time, expertise and perspectives with us. I'd also like to acknowledge the contribution of our planning and property team, whose work and insights have helped inform the presentation you'll hear today. With that in mind, I'll hand over to Scout to take us through the details.
Right. Hi everyone. Thanks for joining us for National Homelessness Week. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of context around homelessness in Australia, in Tasmania and here in Glenorchy, and then we'll hear from some people who are working in that space directly and about how council responds to reports of people sleeping rough in our community. And then we'll talk a little bit about the zoning and disposal side of things around our statement of commitment on housing. I do have some lovely guests who I will introduce to you when their time arrives. But first of all, we're going to have a small video exporting. Do you mind clicking on that?
We all have our stories. We're just like everybody else, but we still get judged.
My rent went up again and I was paying over 70% of it in rent. The worst thing about it is I actually couldn't save up to move. So I was kind of trapped, you know, living in this cycle of just getting poorer and sicker and tireder and more isolated, and it was incredibly depressing.
I don't think anyone could have picked that I would have been homeless. It was just such a shock that it changed everything so much. I was immediately a different person.
We lived in the backpackers for a while. It wasn't like a home, it was so cold.
Went to the shelters and I was pretty much at the shelters for all my student life. If it wasn't for me seeing this little sign saying Colony 47, I would have been homeless on the street.
Just to have a front door key on your key ring, it makes a difference. You know, to come home, be able to turn on my TV, to be able to have a shower, be able to lie down in the bed, turn my heater on, the warmth.
We're all humans. We all have feelings. And we all have stories.
So that is a project that was done by the City of Hobart's Housing with Dignity Reference Group. And we have someone from the group today to come and talk to you shortly. But if anyone's interested in watching the rest of the videos in that series or listening to those interviews, you can get to them through the City of Hobart's website or just look them up on YouTube, although there are lots of other results if you type in I am somebody to YouTube, surprisingly enough. All right. Next slide, please. We have to practice. Thank you. Okay, so in Glenorchy, you probably all know this already. At the last census, we had 20,683 households filling in the census, and we know census time is coming again soon, and I've got a little flyer on how we count people who are homeless, but I'll get to that in a minute. And our population estimate from the ABS is 50,450 people. Our population's pretty stable at the moment. It went up a bit during COVID and it's come down a bit again. So it's sticking around this sort of area. Of those 20,683 households, 30% were single people living alone, lone person households. 23% were couples without children, so that's 2 people in a house usually, and 38.7% were families. We had a small number, 4.1% of other groups living in share houses and so on. On the right-hand side on that graph, you can see the bars are the household size, so the number of bedrooms in each house, and you can see the orange line represents the household size. So you can see that 30% of our households are single people and very few, so less than 10%, around 5 or 6% of our housing stock is single bed houses. So what that tells us is that we likely have a lot of people living alone in houses with more than one bedroom. Lots of reasons for that, and we're not going to go into that now, but it's just this, I just really intended to give you a picture of the housing stock we have and the household sizes, just to compare that. And you can see the majority of houses in our area are 3-bedroom houses. Nearly 50%. So our average household size is 2.39 people, and yeah, you can really see the sort of the difference there. What else we got here? Right, in the last few years, rent has gone up quite a bit. So this is 2021 to March 26, and these statistics come from the Tenants Union of Tasmania. They publish a report every quarter called Tasmanian Rents, and they're looking at things like affordability. And you can see in March 2021, the average rental in Tasmania was $378 per week, and it is now $509 per week, and that's a pretty significant difference over 5 years. So in our city, when we look at income, the lowest quartile, so that when they're talking about quartiles, they're basically putting all of the incomes that through the census, everyone declares their income, all of the incomes from the bottom to the top, and then they divide it into 4 by the number of households. So that's what we're looking at. It's not an average, it's the number of people in the bottom quarter of the population. So that 25.9% are earning less than $717 per week in 2021. That's per household, not per person. That's a household income. And when you're looking at those rental prices, that's starting to tell you a bit of a picture of the situation for renters in our city. Great. So this means that a lot of people are going without sort of some of the other essentials in life in order to be able to pay their rent. And Anglicare's cost of living index 2026, which came out fairly recently, clearly states that income support is failing to keep pace with housing prices. So there's a mismatch between what people are expected to live on and what we need to spend on our housing costs. So when we say people going out without essentials, that's people are choosing to not turn the heater on, they might be not filling their prescriptions, they might be falling into debt, skipping meals, eating cheaper or less nutritious food, delaying medical care, or relying on support services or emergency relief. So that puts a lot of people in a very precarious situation. So housing stress, you've probably heard this term before, but it's used to describe a situation where someone's paying more than 30%, so more than 1/3 of their income is spent on their rent or mortgage payments. And on the right-hand side, you can see people paying a mortgage in Glenorchy and people renting in Glenorchy. You can see there's a lot more people in the red on the renting bar. So 10%, or nearly 11% of Glenorchy households were in housing stress, which means they're paying more than 30% of their income on housing. And 31.6% of renters are in housing stress. So rental vacancy rates are very low in Glenorchy. I got that figure there from an investment people who give you advice. You pay them, they give you advice on where to buy a house. They're like, buy a house in Glenorchy, you'll definitely rent it out. So that's the 0.76%. And Anglicare in their front door service quarterly snapshot, which came out today, the sort of amount that they want people, they want the vacancy rate that they want in for people to be able to find housing is 3%. So we're really well below what a healthy rental market for renters. All right, sorry, from that Anglicare report that came through today, they also said that rent increased more than twice as fast as income did in the last 12 months. So from March 2025 to 26, rental increases twice as big as income increases. Yeah. All right, so homelessness in Tasmania, most of these statistics come from homeless, either from Shelter Tas or from Homelessness Australia. I've got loads of more info if you want it. So waiting for social housing in Tasmania. These stats come from Homes Tasmania. There are now 5,507 households on the waiting list for social housing. So that's gone up so much since 5 years ago. I was working in housing and the wait list was around 2,500. We thought that was enormous, and it's doubled since then. So 77% of those households meet the criteria for homelessness. So they're either in temporary accommodation, they're staying with family or friends, or they're in a shelter, or they might be sleeping in their car as well. 686 of those applications are the highest priority. They meet the threshold for the highest priority to be housed immediately. 89 weeks is the average amount of time from when you apply for housing and then you actually get housing support through the system. So that's nearly 2 years now. Yeah. 22.2% of those people may have a disability, so that's what that means, accessibility needs. 8.7% of those people are already receiving, of 8.7% of people receiving specialist homelessness services are current NDIS participants. So you can imagine there's also a gap between people who need NDIS support and people who get it. But people with disabilities are overrepresented in these statistics. And also 83% of applicants are waiting for a 1 or 2 bedroom home. So they're waiting for a small house. But that's not always what our housing industry is providing. And there's reasons for that, mostly profit. Shelter Tas tells us that on any one day in Tasmania, 17% of people who are receiving support from a homelessness service are Aboriginal. 37 requests for help go unassisted, and a quarter, so 25% of people experiencing homelessness are young people, and 14% are under 12. And we also have like quite a high proportion of people who are older, so over 55, 17% there, compared to, yeah, the national average of 10%. And Homelessness Australia very clearly says that family and domestic violence is one of the main drivers of homelessness. So we talked a little bit about financial stress before when we were talking about income and rental and housing costs. And if you know much about the drivers of family violence, housing, financial stress can be one of those big factors that can really increase the likelihood or the severity of relationship conflicts and violence. All right. And when we look at Glenorchy, in 2021, there were only 312 people who who described their living situation in a way that the ABS classifies them as homeless. And there's lots of reasons for that. It is really, really hard for people who are living rough to fill out a census form. And when people are moving around, it might be confusing or it might just be confusing or very hard to fill out a form. And also, if you are staying in with other families in very crowded accommodation, you might not want to put that down because you'd be scared of losing your rent or scared of getting in trouble with the housing provider. So there's lots of acknowledgement about how the numbers around homelessness through the census are not accurate. And there's lots of people doing work in that space to try and improve the accuracy of that. And if you are interested, I do have a little bit of information about that. And we do also have the homelessness team from the ABS coming to our event on Wednesday. So if you've got questions about outreach for the census, you can ask the Colin, lovely person from the ABS. This graph here is telling us basically a story that sleeping rough is really the tip of the iceberg when it comes to homelessness. So the top bar up there, people living in improvised dwellings, tents, or sleeping out, you can see that's like almost 20 people, less than 20 people in 2021, whereas there was 312 people total. So that's really what, when we think of homelessness, that's really what immediately comes into our mind. It's like someone who's sleeping outside or sleeping in a shelter that they've made, or sleeping in a car. But this tells us the story that there's actually way more people experiencing homelessness. And when we're thinking about homelessness, we need to think about the people that are less visible. An interesting one on this is the bottom one. So that's people living in severely crowded dwellings. So they might be living in a house, they might be staying with family members, or they could be crashing with a friend. But under this definition, the number of people living in that house would need 4 extra bedrooms or more to meet the Canadian occupancy standards, which is like a way of looking at best practice for housing that's used internationally. All right, so now I've given you a lot of statistics. I'm going to invite my first guest up here. Thanks, Warren. And so first of all, we've got Tyson. Tyson Montgomery is going to come and speak to us. Tyson is the co-chair of the City of Hobart's Housing with Dignity Reference Group, and he's come to us directly from work, where he's been cutting concrete in the cold all day. Tyson has experienced homelessness in Tasmania, currently has a spot in Sandy Bay, and I haven't seen any pictures of your dogs yet, but I'm looking forward to that.
No, I've got some on my phone.
We'll look at that. And so Tyson's here to, I guess, tell us a little bit of the story, and also to talk about his role as an advocate to City of Hobart. And I'm just going to interview Tyson, and if you've got questions, I'm sure you will. We'll save a little bit of time for that. So thanks for being here, Tyson.
No worries. Thanks everybody for
This is Tyson.
being here.
These are our elected members and our acting CEO. And I guess something that they might be really wanting to know is what's a typical day like for someone who is sleeping rough? So when you were in that situation.
All right, when I was in that situation. Okay, I guess first thing was finding something warm to drink in winter. That was the first thing, because I was freezing cold. So I was looking for something warm to drink. And I guess probably, after that was looking for somewhere to stay. That was priority. Needed somewhere to put my stuff, because I don't want to be carrying it around all day, every day. So I've got to find somewhere to put my stuff. So looking for somewhere to put my stuff. Then obviously looking for somewhere to have something to eat, because I'm hungry. Got to have breakfast, need breakfast. So that's my first stop, would be looking for breakfast, which is really hard sometimes because there wasn't places open that hour in the morning. I'm up at 5 o'clock looking for a place for somewhere to eat. Can't get somewhere at 5 o'clock. So that'll probably take a few hours, so, do that. Probably after that, walk around, fill my day, probably going to different services, finding out what's going on. And then obviously going back to the place where I've got my stuff, setting up, getting warm, getting ready for the cold nights, or, during some of the hot nights, whatever's going, making sure that if it was going to rain, I made sure that I found somewhere that, my tent wasn't going to get soaking wet, I wasn't going to get drowned out, so that was probably, and I guess, the main meal of tea was, before, obviously that was looking for somewhere to have something to eat, because obviously, in a lot of places, even a soup would be, handy. Soup, because in winter, you'd be cold, so soup would be handy, A lot of places have a main meal, but obviously there's certain places that you can go to, or, you can't get there, or, you're late, so they don't have any meals left, so, you plan to, look for a main meal the next day. So that was the day filled.
When we were chatting, you told me that sometimes it would take quite a long time to find somewhere to put your gear.
Yeah.
And how much of your day do you reckon you spent looking?
Far out, sometimes all day.
Yeah.
Sometimes all day. Yeah. Sometimes because to be honest, not a lot of places you can stick a tent.
Yeah.
Not a lot of places you can stick your pillow or your head that's safe.
Yeah.
Or you're gonna, be warm, or you're not gonna get, attacked in the middle of the night. So, it'd take me all day, and I'd make sure that, the place that I found was somewhere dry, somewhere comfortable. Not necessarily what would happen, but that probably all day would be, like not saying that in between that I wouldn't do the other things I was saying, but it would take me all day to find somewhere safe.
Yeah.
Wouldn't take an hour or half an hour. It would take all day, just
And
about.
What sort of stuff did you have?
Oh, my tent.
Yeah.
My clothes. Like, I only had a certain amount of clothes because obviously I couldn't carry a whole lot of clothes. So I'd only have like maybe 2 pairs of pants, a pair of tracksuit pants, a jacket for the warmth, a jumper, and that's another thing I'd have to find during the day would be somewhere to wash my stuff. So I have to be clean. And also, while I was on the street, also had was working. I got a job while I was on the street for a while, so I had to find somewhere to wash my work stuff and make sure my boots were clean, or had that. And the main thing was having a shower. That was the hardest thing, finding somewhere to wash. Most times I'd be washing in a fountain somewhere with one of a bar of soap that I picked up at Salvos or picked up, at City Mission. And a face washer, just soap in a face washer, a quick wash under the arms, quick wash, everywhere else, and then back to where I was sleeping and go sleeping, ready for work the next day.
And you told me you had some other stuff besides your bedding and your clothes. You had some
Yeah.
special things.
Yeah, I used to carry around a photo of my family. That was, that was safekeeping. That was something I didn't want to lose, because that was the only connection that I had. You didn't have many connections when you're living on the street. So that was a connection that I had. I didn't necessarily see my family a lot. My family's in Melbourne, so I didn't have anybody here really. So that was my connection. I carried around a collar. I had a dog that I had to give up when I went on the street. I couldn't keep him anymore. So I carried around a dog collar for years. And that was like just something that was held on to reality. That was the main thing. Just holding on to something that was real, something that I couldn't lose, something that I hadn't lost yet, something that was there, and I'd probably spend, a few nights, a week or a few nights having a bit of a teary, looking at that photo. But that was what we did. That was what the day panned out, it was a struggle.
How important were those things to you?
Very important, majorly important. That was, if I lost those, I'd be devastated. I'd be lost because I wouldn't have anything to hold on to reality then. I've lost them now. So what else could I lose?
Yeah.
And that was a big thing, everything you lost was, was major. Even if you lost a pair of pants, where are you going to get your second pair of pants from? So yeah, so it was really hard. Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing that.
That's all right.
And
yeah, no worries.
You told me about your dog that you had to give up, but when we were talking, we were also talking about like how important pets are and how important relationships are.
Yeah.
So you wanna say
Oh, excuse me for 2 secs, because I get upset a little bit because when I had him, he was my only friend, only one I could trust. The only one that when I went to sleep at night, he'd be sleeping beside me. I know that, it's safety. Like if anybody came up to my tent or anybody was near me, he'd growl or he'd bark, so I'd be awake. So, that was my safety net. And when I lost him, when I had to give him up, because I couldn't keep him anymore, because I couldn't feed him or I couldn't take him to the vet. I couldn't do things like that because I couldn't afford any of that stuff. I had to give him up, and that was probably the most hardest thing I've had to do in a very, very long time. Very long time.
And the reason we started talking about that was because we were talking about like sometimes if you're sleeping rough and you have like a pet or a partner, there might be some places that you actually can't go.
Yeah.
So we expect people to go to crisis accommodation, but often that accommodation
Very
is just for
hard.
one gender, so you can't take your partner.
Yeah.
Or you can't take your dog.
There was times, Scout, there was times when I'd go to somewhere and I'd say, look, mate, I'll tie my dog up out the front, mate. Just let me, just tie him up out the front. He'll be right. He won't bark or anything, but I couldn't do it because they weren't allowed. So then I'd have to go and find somewhere to sleep. Like that, on my thought process would be to sleep there the night. Then because I couldn't sleep there, I had to have another thought process. Where do I go now? And sometimes it was hard because like there was places that even you couldn't have the dog because security would come and say, you can't have dogs on the premises, mate. Well, I'm only going to be here overnight, mate. No, you can't have the dog here, mate. You can stay here, but your dog has to go. Well, that's not going to work, mate. I have to go too. So that was probably, that was really, really hard.
And but you've got a spot now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love
That's so good. And you've got this gig with the Housing with Dignity reference group. This
Yes.
is Hobart.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, how did you first hear about that group and what's it been like getting involved with that group?
Wow. Well, I got onto the group through a gentleman named Don McRae. Special gentleman to me. He'll always have my respect. Always, because him and Annie and Chris, I'm here, would always have my respect because they're the sort of people that I need, that we need. Even, like that's just a big thing. If it wasn't for those two, I probably wouldn't be here today. But anyway, getting onto the reference group, Don asked me if I wanted to join the reference group because I had experience living on the street. I go, yeah, mate, I'll try it out. Why not? I'll give it a shot. Turned up to a meeting. There was, I think at that time there was, I think there was four or five people on the reference group at that time. And then they all sort of dwindled off, and I've been there ever since. That group means a lot to me because obviously it's feet on the ground for those that don't have a voice. Yeah, a lot of people on the street don't have voices. They can't come and sit in front of you guys, or they wouldn't sit in front of you guys and tell you how bad the day was because it doesn't matter to them, and they think that it wouldn't matter to you either. So they don't do it, So having a reference group like the Housing with Dignity is gives them a voice, and then we can come in and do these things for them. And we can sit in front of you guys and tell you what's needed and what's not. It's hard. It's obviously hard for you guys to know what's going on the ground because, not a lot of people would be telling you guys. And that's why I think that a reference group like ours would be handy.
And the reference group, you organise events and stuff too, right?
Yes.
I've got, you want to tell us about this event you're doing this week?
Yes, Songs from the Street, something I came up with a little while ago. I came up with it because I believe that music and people who experience homelessness gives a good connection, and it connects people with other people, connects people with the community, gives someone who hasn't necessarily enjoyed their week to enjoy just one day, just to take their mind off of what's been going on. They probably spent the last, 8 hours looking for a place to stay, and they just want to chill. Come and play some music with us. We'll take you. But we had prizes for the winner. I'm not really sure what the prize. I haven't got my glasses on.
I think last year it was a recording with the Frying Pan Studio.
Yeah, it was. So we had prizes first, second, and third. So they win. And I think I'm not sure what the prizes are this year, but to tell you the truth, this is like something. It's huge, really, if you think about it. It's big because not a lot of people in the community see people who live on the street playing a musical instrument, or someone who's living on the street doesn't necessarily get to talk to someone from the community. Oh, how you going, mate? What's been going on? Tell them their day. They might be a real estate agent or someone who has a shed or a garage they're not using. They wanted to do what a bonus. They're just here playing music and they're just having a chit chat while listening to music. and someone's offered them a place to stay. You know, so it gives them opportunity as well as the chance to enjoy themselves for just an hour, half an hour. You know, that's what I look for, really.
And can anyone come to this event?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we would like to invite all people to this event, including you guys. We'd love to see one or two come along because, you know, I guess that it's a special event, yeah, and it's something that, you know, we all can enjoy. Community, councillors, and people who live on the street. So yeah, come along if you can. Pamphlets, we'll give you a one. Come along, I'd love to see a face or two there.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Thank you so much.
That's
Tyson.
okay.
And if you would like to hire Tyson for your speaking engagements, you can get.
Yes,
You can,
very much so.
You can
I'll be there.
get in touch with Tyson through the Housing with Dignity reference group.
Yes.
I've got some flyers for that there. But last year Tyson was on the barbecue with Salvos out the front there for our Homelessness Week event.
Yes.
And
I also volunteer for the Salvation Army Emergency Services as well. I've been doing that for a while now too as well, yeah, so it's something I enjoy as well.
all right, anything you want to say before we?
Look, I guess it all comes down to the fact of, I know that you guys don't necessarily see what goes on down on the ground. And I think that getting a reference group up and running for this council would benefit not only Glenorchy, but surrounding areas as well. And I think it would also help out councillors, you guys, to know what's going on out there, maybe get some advice or some steps on where to go from, you know, where we're at. And I guess the Housing Dignity Reference Group is a group that can do that.
Thank you.
No worries. I hope I've done okay.
We'll bring Tyson back at the end for questions, if that's all right. You can just leave them there. Thank you. And now we've got Chris. So Chris is Tassie born and bred, lives in Glenorchy, raised in Glenorchy. 16 years working in Risdon as a corrections officer, lots of experience doing tenancy work and now leading the Streets to Home team. And our team works with you a lot, and maybe actually on trade spaces with Ben, and you guys can have a chat. You can just lead off and tell us about your program.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So I'm Chris. I look after Street to Home and Beyond the Wire program. So I look after our prison programs and our homelessness, assertive outreach programs out in the street. So a little bit about assertive outreach is we go out looking for individuals that don't know that they need to be found, that might not be linked in with any services, that might not have the means to find the services that they need to. So I don't require someone coming to me and asking me for help. I go looking for them and ask them if they need some help, if they know about the services that they can access, and do they need help to get to those services or to access those services. A lot of individuals that we work with are banned from most of the services that are designed to help them as well. And that comes through frustration. A lot of the services require them to go to the service to get the help. And when you don't have any transport means, you don't have fresh clothes, you haven't slept well, there might be substance issues there as well. There is a lot of barriers to actually being able to get to those services. So we go out, we look for individuals, we work with the councils, we work with police, anyone that will give us a heads up that someone's pitched a tent somewhere or sleeping rough, a car's been parked for too long, someone might be sleeping in it. We'll go and just knock on the window of the car and say, do you need any help? We'll approach a tent and yell out and say, is there anyone there that needs any help? And try to find new individuals. An example of finding someone that didn't know that they needed help was an individual that we found over 12 months ago that had been sleeping rough for over 10 years. They'd been in a tent in a caravan park, or all places. They had a monthly mental health injection, a depot shot. So an individual knew where they were and came and gave them shot. And this is a classic example of, this is just my job sort of thing. This individual was getting their monthly shot, but nobody asked any questions past that. Why are you in a tent? Why are you sitting here? I come give you a shot. Nothing's changed in the last 10 years. This individual was very low, could not read, could not use a phone, couldn't even go down to the local takeaway store and order anything whilst it was there. Didn't know what the names of the food was in the shop either. So he used to just point at things in the Bay Marie. The person at the shop knew him well enough because he stayed in the same area that he'd just ask for some food and they'd give him something and they knew what he liked. So he didn't want to move out of his area. A natural disaster happened, a bit of flooding. His tent got swept away in the waters. Everyone else in the caravan park had found an option of where to go because they had their caravans, they could move them. He lost everything that he had. We met him at an evacuation centre and he was sitting up the back of the room not asking for any help. He was the last person in the room asking for any help. So I went down and had a chat with him and asked him what his story was, what was going on for him. And he told me he was just politely waiting for his turn to get a house. And said, no, I'm on the list, I've got everything that I need, I'm just politely waiting my turn. So I said, you've been waiting a while, so we'll just have a look and find out. So I managed to get onto his housing application and yeah, it had been started, but it hadn't been finished. So he had a support worker at some stage that knew he couldn't read or write or use a phone or any of those things. And they started some case notes, started to get his application up and running, but it never got completed. He thought it was completed and he was so polite that he was just politely waiting. So 10 years he slept in the tent for in a community and nobody actually knew why. We managed to find those old case notes, put those case notes together, and we got his application up and running. And it also got backdated from when those notes started. So he ended up with a 10-year application overnight, and within 2 weeks we had him housed. Not only did we get him housed, he'd never used a TV before, so he didn't even know how to turn the TV on. So we spent a good hour after getting him into a house, showing him how to turn the TV on. Couldn't change the channel after that. Couldn't use a microwave, so I didn't want one of those because he couldn't read the dials. Couldn't use an oven, couldn't read the dials. So we got him a barbecue because he knew how to turn a barbie on and cook some sausages, and that was the limit of him. He, from there, managed to get NDI support and is now living quite comfortably and learning new things that he could manage before. But one of the things that would have happened if he had managed to get that housing application up and running back in the start of that 10 years, he had no contact method. So he couldn't use a phone, so he didn't have a phone. He didn't have an address, so his reviews wouldn't have gone anywhere. So if it did manage to get up and running, within 6 months it would have been cancelled anyway, and he wouldn't have seen a place because nobody would have known where to go to actually give him the review and keep his application going. And that's what our program aims to do, is keep in contact with those that are sleeping rough, checking on them from time to time and make sure that their applications are staying up and running. One of the things that we do is we put our contact details down on their housing application as well. So when a housing offer comes in, they don't miss out because usually you get one phone call. If you miss that phone call, you've missed out. You're waiting again until it comes back around. Housing providers have got to get these houses filled quickly, so there's usually a quick 2-day turnaround as well. Most individuals sleeping rough won't have the means to pay the bond, rent, everything that comes with wanting it, let alone thinking about how to get to the appointment in the first place from where they're situated. So we help with all that. We'll pick them up, we'll take them, we'll make sure that they make the appointments, that they've got the ability to get their rent, their bond, everything in that they actually need to get there, so they don't miss out on these opportunities. We also watch their applications to make sure that those 6-month reviews don't time them out, so they're removed from the list. So a lot of people on there that are sleeping rough do not have housing applications. I would have to say that at least 70% of the individuals that we meet new on the street that we get a call out to go help have something wrong with their application. That means that they're never going to get offered a property, but they thought that it was up and running. They don't have any means to check it themselves, so we do it for them. That's some of the stories around Street to Home.
And some of the, so Ben, join us, Ben. Ben and I have been attending the Salvation Army Streets to Home Southern Council's meetings, where we get to hear sort of reports from these guys and like what's happening around the place and what are the trends. So what are they seeing? So is there anything you want to tell us about what's changing? Who are you seeing? What's
So the biggest changes on the street now, and it'll be interesting to see what the new census shows, is that everything's rapidly getting worse, especially in the last 12 months. We're seeing a larger group of younger people and the older people, over 55. Over 55s, it usually could be a health-related issue that stops someone from working. Most households require a dual income to maintain a household with the rent prices that they are. So someone losing a job is enough to put a whole household out on the street. So we're seeing a lot more of that. We're seeing a lot more over 55s sleeping rough in their cars because the partner's passed away. There's no longer the dual income. They can't afford the rent anymore. They're out on the street. The housing wait times, most people that are on our caseload are 2 to 5, even longer than 5 years on the street now waiting for that offer for a house. So someone new to the street, the first conversation we have is a very lengthy conversation and a very unpleasant conversation about how long they're going to be in that situation for and what are the options out there. And even with all the options that are out there, someone new on the street is in for a long wait for a house and a very unpleasant journey.
Yeah. And so some of the stuff that I've heard you say in those meetings is about people waiting who need an NDIS application or people living in cars. Like, is there like families even?
Yeah, we come across families. Families is very difficult to watch. There is avenues there, but a family will have to split up to get shelter. So if there is no domestic violence and it is a full family, mum, dad and the kids, dad will have to go somewhere separately from mum. Mum can take the kids to a shelter, but if they're male kids over a certain age, they cannot go to the shelter with mum either, and dad cannot take them to a shelter either. So the kids have to find, male kids over a certain age have to find a separate option from dad and mum, because dad cannot take the kids to a male adult shelter.
Right.
Can I just ask what's the age? Is it 12 or 14?
It's about 12, yeah.
Chris, with the mental health cycle, so the people sleeping rough with mental health issues and self-medicating can't go to a shelter, things like that.
Yeah. So mental health is one of the biggest factors on the street, and getting help to those on the street for their mental health. A lot of services won't attend. While someone's sleeping rough, they won't come out to them. They've got to come into their service. Bad mental health usually means that they won't attend the service, or they need support to attend the service. A lot of support services out there will not pick them up and take them to the service either, due to bad mental health. There might be substance in there as well. So there's a very big gap there, and they'll go missing in the system more than anyone else. So we see a high rate of mental health. Someone new on the street might not have bad mental health. Usually it's trauma that's put someone there. Now we're seeing things that aren't trauma-based that are putting people on the street. Loss of a job. We could say, trauma, loss of a partner. But yeah, just simple things like not being able to get back into a rental too. Some working individuals will have an end of a lease, and then they'll be struggling to try and get back into one with low income as well with their housing wait time. So if you're on the housing wait list, when you get that phone call for a property offer, you don't have to fight anyone for that property. But someone that's working, if they end up on the street by themselves and no family, no friends to be able to take them in, they could be fighting every time they go to an open home or a rental with 200 other old people that are trying to get that same rental and keep missing out due to having a single income. So rentals that will look at dual incomes before they look at singles. So then that person on the street will inevitably end up losing their job or have to make the decision, I'm earning just enough to not get any help, but not enough to pay the rent. So what do? Do I give up my job and go on the housing wait list, because that might be a faster option back into a property than trying to make ends meet on minimum wage.
So how does council work with you? How do you work with councils?
So councils for us are phenomenal. They help us out heaps. So before we started to get really involved with councils, we would go out on the street looking for individuals. Now we don't waste any time trying to walk around in areas. We get so many referrals now of tents being pitched and that from local councils, police, community houses, tons of different sources in the community that will say, I think there's someone here that needs some help, that we're just going straight from one to the next to the next to the next now. And it's become so busy that we cannot keep up anymore. We would like to provide more support to the individuals on the street, but our caseloads get so high that it's a quick stop. How are you going? You've got everything you need to go to the next person. That it is hard to find time when someone does get housed to actually take them to the appointments that they need, whilst having to ignore the others waiting for their opportunity.
Maybe it's a good time now to ask, well, what happens from the other side, and how do you fit in, Ben?
Yep, so as the Safe City lead here at council, I've done it for the last basically 2 years. I get calls come through from customer service. They come to me, I look at it and make an assessment. So I'll go and visit the site, take someone with me, visit the site and just make an assessment on what's the situation at the campsite. Are the people safe there? Are they abiding by different rules? So is there lots of rubbish? Are they making fires? I'll talk about, but first thing we look at is the health and well-being of the person. So we'll check on them, we'll make a bit of an assessment. So it's all about responding to the complaint, looking at the situation and then working out where to refer them next as a council. So our main port of call has always been Streets to Home, because we've found they're the most effective and they take the person's health and safety first, and they've got all the tools to help that we need. So we'll call Chris, Annie, Josh to the scene, and they'll speak to the person. They normally already know them. They can look up what stage their housing application's at. They can then assist them with forms filling out, which is such a barrier for the people to go in and answer. They've got no phone normally, their phone's flat. And I've been in situations where Annie, Chris and Josh have provided a charging block so the person can charge their phone and make sure they receive the phone call from the housing or whoever it is. And it's just a crucial part of our my day-to-day work is having the partnership with Streets to Home and other services, but definitely Streets to Home. And then we can work towards helping this person. If their site is messy, we can help themselves clean up, and we can help them with that. We can provide food from Salvation Army or other services, and it's just that's the first port of call. And then we work with them to try and get them back into a reasonable living situation, which is obviously, as Chris is saying, is such a difficult spot. So the public rings up and wants me to move them straight away, but if I move them, then the next people are then going to complain because we can't move them to a house. So we've got to keep moving around and support these people until there's a suitable situation. But the amount of times Chris and Annie and Josh have been able to come up with a solution for these people, it's just been unbelievable, and they would never have got that. So through this system, the people will ring council, then referring and working with Salvation Army gives these people a chance that they never would normally have. So I think that it works really well. It does come to a time sometimes when we have to end up going to the compliance team because there's just an untenable situation where the person's camping. There's too many problems with the neighbours, or the close proximities to where schools are, things where it might not be safe for either party. So we do have to then move them on, but we always use care and safety with the person in mind, and work with Chris and Annie and Streets to Home to just take them to a safe place when possible and really look after the people first. Yeah.
Thank you.
And if we look at things as well, all the crisis shelters are full and have wait times now as well. So we've got Hobart Safe Space, it's at 35 beds, always full. People get turned away nightly from there. And then if we're talking about just males alone, the only other option is Beth House. Beth House is always at capacity, and that has a 6 to 8 month wait list now in itself, and that is the crisis accommodation, and that is the only avenues for a male on the street, is those two options. So even if they did want to get off the street, there's sometimes just not that option to get off the street. And in the last 12 months alone, we've seen a huge increase in numbers of people sleeping rough. So even if they did want to find an option, there's no options anymore.
That's something I find, I have to explain to the members of the public who ring up, just saying, just move these people and take them, get them crisis housing. They don't understand that there is a wait for crisis housing as well, which is something we're trying to educate people.
Thank you, Alderman Sloan.
Yeah, look, Chris, thanks for your presentation. I'm going to ask something, and Ben knows what it is. But I've got a gentleman who's in a car every night near my house at Berridale, the white car near the hotel. What help's he getting? Because I mean, he won't listen to me. What can we do with him?
Sometimes individuals, when we approach, don't want any help.
Right.
We'll keep trying over and over again.
Yes.
Sometimes it's not the first time because it is a trust thing.
Yeah.
Most people have gone through a traumatic event.
6 months at least. He's
Yeah,
been there.
usually caused by other people. So we'll just keep trying over and over again.
Yeah.
And usually there's a tipping point for that person, and they will contact us, or on random visit they'll go, yes, I do want help now. I will accept that help now. It is voluntary. We don't force people to do what they don't want to do. Some individuals, and it is a very small amount of individuals, will just say no to all help, and they don't want to talk to anyone, they don't want to see anyone, and we have to respect that, because we cannot force individuals. So we're a voluntary service, so it is about building the trust and the relationship with the individual to get the help.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a human being, and I'm in bed at night time, and I see how cold it is. I think, oh, gee, I know what it'd be like down there near the river there. And that's, I know. I heard what you said.
Can I just make a suggestion? Anyone else making a contribution is very careful not to identify any
No, I'm not.
circumstances.
No.
Yeah, thanks. Alderman Alderton.
Yes, I have a question for you, Chris. Look, as a council, we constantly sit around this table, we talk about freeing up land for affordable housing, etc. But there's a crisis happening here that needs some help straight away. So us as a council and other councils around the community, would it help to put some of this land aside short term and have it as a space for these people to set up tents where they're safe, where they can exist until we can fix the problem and get a long-term solution?
Yeah, that would be ideal. Yeah, definitely not my realm of decision making, but I think it would be good if across the state we can find some areas and say this is an appropriate area for people to sleep rough, because that is one of the biggest questions that we get all the time, is where is appropriate. We do not suggest places to individuals because we become responsible for that choice. If we say here's a good spot, when they go put the tent there, then it might be an issue with the council. It might not be the right spot, and then the blame comes back on us. Or you told us it was okay, but now we can't stay here. So it would be good if there was some areas that had some basic facilities, like somewhere to cook, have a shower, and go to the toilet, where people could pitch in tents in the short term. But I think everyone steers clear of it because it then becomes very visual, having a space that becomes a tent city. But we are vastly getting towards there anyway, because it is so visual now in our cities. Even across the state, I travel around, and a lot of people that sleep rough do try to hide. But it has become that crowded in areas where they do try to hide, that they are spreading out, and it becomes visual because those hiding spots don't exist anymore, because a lot of rough sleepers will have issues with each other as well. So they do have little pocket communities amongst themselves. So they do need to split up and move around and have space between each other. But then, you know, it would be good also to have a space that is monitored, where people can ask for help and sleep and feel safe to leave their gear, to be able to go and access the service. Because some individuals will not leave their gear. If they are in a car and it's got every position they don't want to leave it. Because they don't know if it's going to be there when they come back, and that might be the last thing that they've got to hold on to. So that can stop people from accessing services alone, not wanting to leave their gear. We saw a pop-up shelter for extreme weather events in Hobart last week, a week ago. A lot of the individuals that we approached over 30 individuals. Most of them didn't want to leave their gear because it was all that they had left, and would rather sit in a tent that's blowing down full of water, so they don't lose those last possessions that they have.
Thank you. So I'll just whip through the last bit because our colleagues Renee in the properties and Renee Stevenson and Liam and Lyndall in our planning team have put together a little bit of an update for you on the other aspects of the housing, the statement of commitment on housing. So I'll love to pay a little bit of attention to their work. So this statement of commitment was endorsed in January 2023, and you've heard some of the stuff we're doing. So we're working with homelessness services and housing services like this, and like our event on Wednesday, the Winter Warmer Community Expo. We are working with other councils, so we attend the Greater Hobart Homelessness Alliance, which is facilitated by the City of Hobart, and the Southern Council Streets to Home Network, which we mentioned earlier. But behind the scenes, our properties team and our planning team are also doing work to increase housing supply. This is like a long-term solution to this problem. And so I just really want to quickly talk about some of their amazing work. So our planning team, since 2023, they have done a lot of really great work in the rezoning. So looking at areas which are underutilised or maybe appropriate for rezoning from rural or from some other use industrial into housing. So making the land suitable, making it ready to go for zoning. So some of those projects you probably know really well because you've been on council for most of that time. The Northern Apartment Corridor Specific Area Plan, the Mill Lane Specific Area Plan, the Principal Activity Centre Specific Area Plan, and most recently the 10 Mile Ridge Specific Area Plan in Austins Ferry. So that's what that picture is. Those blue squares are areas which have been rezoned and now available for housing. And so 42 dwellings have been approved at 271 Main Road, and then there's 2 other blocks there which are ready to go. And obviously our zoning team has to work within all of those other parameters and legislation that exists. So they're, sometimes these projects take quite a long time to come to fruition. And right now our team are working on the Northern Suburbs Transit Corridor, and that's about finding suitable areas for slightly higher density where there's good access to public transport and other services. And as you can see, council did get a federal grant in 2025 to do this work. All right. And our building approvals, I asked for a little bit of information on planning approvals, and our planning team said, actually, it's much more helpful to look at building approvals because sometimes things never move from the planning to the building stage. So this is, you can see a little map of a little graph here of finished buildings, finished residential buildings. And you can see there's a bit of a dip there after COVID, so it didn't happen immediately, but these things take a lot of time. You've got to line up all your contractors and get all of your suppliers into the area where you're building. That takes time, and so you can see a little flow on. People stopped planning projects during COVID for a minute there, and that's what that big dip is. And they were like, oh, we're starting to see it come back up. Don't worry, it's coming back. Okay, And our properties team, they have a little update for you. So there are 9 disposals that they've been working on since 2023. 6 are completed. So this is like their project, basically finding land which is suitable for housing that council owns and selling it for housing. So there's lots of ways that they look at the right opportunity for that. The purpose of this is to increase residential land supply in the city of Glenorchy. So I've got a little summary here. There have been 9 council-owned properties identified as suitable. 6 of those have been completed, those disposals. That's 37,000 square metres of land, potential to facilitate approximately 122 new dwellings. So some of those projects are social housing, some of them are public housing or government housing, and some of them are private housing developments. And our planning team know a lot more about that and they can tell you all about it. But yes, so fantastic work, and thanks to our properties team for this information. The planning team said, the property team said, please get involved with Let's Talk Glenorchy. So if you want to know when these things are coming up for public consultation, that's how you find out. So you can register online. And there's a web link on the bottom of that slide there where you can learn all about the land disposal program. All right, so we've talked a lot about housing and homelessness today. Thank you for staying with us this whole time. I know we're running a bit late, but I just wanted to finish by inviting everyone to the Winter Warmer Community Expo on Wednesday. So that is our event that we're holding for Homelessness Week, and the idea is to invite anyone who'd like to come and join us for a hot meal and to learn about some of the services that can help out if you're in a bit of a financial pinch. So we've got lots of experts coming, the Tenants Union, we've got Find Help Tas coming, we've got the Aboriginal Legal Service coming, we've got so many services. Salvos will be there, 2610 will be there. There's barbecue, there's a barbershop choir, the Silver Tones are singing, and they're also looking for new members in case anyone wants to join. And we've also got a harp player. So Tiff Norchik is someone with over 10 years of homelessness experience, who is now a student at the Conservatorium, plays harp and plays therapeutic harp in the hospital. So Tiff is also going to join us and do a little performance. But there are lots of other ways that you can help out. So even members of the public who might be watching this, there's a few things on there that anyone can do. And the final thing on that list there is to ask people to sign the Everybody's Home petition. Homelessness Australia and Shelter Tas are calling on us to individually sign that. And that's actually just a request to the federal government to fund more housing, more social housing and homelessness services. All right. I've been talking a lot. Any questions?
Any Alderman questions? Thank you, Alderman Marks.
I haven't so much got a question, but I have a statement for Chris. I'm actually a qualified mental health counsellor, and I'm free and willing anytime to go out and help anybody homeless. I'll go to their tent or go wherever.
Yep, I'm happy to take anyone out that wants to come through.
Happy to do any time.
Yeah.
Day or night.
Yep.
Thank you. Alderman King.
Can I ask Tyson a question?
Yeah.
Way back there. Yeah. How long have you been volunteering with the Salvos, Tyson? Several years now, is it?
Oh, yeah.
Did you do the sleep outs out the front, 21, 22, 23?
Yeah, you betcha.
You and me. Yeah. You were the bodyguard, I think.
Yeah, you betcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Fun nights.
Look,
They were
I say, those events are just, we need to have them. And I don't think we need to just have them. I did forget to say, one thing that we all need to remember is we only have Homelessness Week 1 week of the year, okay? The rest of the year, majority of it, even myself, we go back to our homes, go back to our normal lives. Sometimes we forget that this stuff's going on out there. We tend to, so I think that when we have these events, we need to have them maybe more than one time in the year. So maybe, you have them this week and then, maybe 3 months down the track again. Those sleep outs are a bonus.
Well, unfortunately, we had a little bit of trouble at the front, as you remember, so they stopped the sleep now. Now, you still got the onesie?
Alright,
You still got the onesie?
yeah, still got it, mate, still got it, yeah, still wear that.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, no, still wear that too. But look, like, I mean, Chris, scouted, we all have our lives, and the majority of us, all of us here have a place to live. So we all go home to our nice warm beds and our puppy dogs, which I love, mind you. And we all go back to our lives, and our lives keep running. Sometimes you pass by those people and forget that they're there. Like, that's not because you're arrogant or because you're irresponsible, you don't want to know that. It's because it's just part of life. We all do that. So I think these events and stuff that we do have homelessness maybe needs to be ran again at some time in the year, maybe closer to Christmas, or, because obviously Christmas time is a good time to do it because a lot of people are on holidays and, are around at that time, so, yeah.
Thank you. Alderman Alderson?
Yes, thank you. I just had a question for you as well, Tyson. You talked about feeling unsafe when you were living homeless.
Yes.
And living.
Yes.
What were the things that made you feel unsafe? What were the dangers you sort of experienced? Can you share that?
Majority of it was other people trying to pinch your stuff or trying to bash you for your gear because you had something that they wanted. Right. Maybe a nice pair of shoes, or a warm pair of socks that they didn't have, or brand new pair of jeans or a jacket. Sometimes it's your tent. They haven't got a tent, so they want yours. Why go buy one when you take it off this fella?
So you're more unsafe around people in the same situation.
Things like your ID, like that was things that, people would steal, like not because they needed to use it, just be nasty, so it was like, and other things too, like, other people in the public, coming yelling and screaming at you, you feel unsafe when they do that, or having the police come and remove you at 2 o'clock in the morning when you've got to try and find somewhere else, they're all unsafe things. That's all the things you have to think about because they're all the things that happen. And like obviously I'm not on the street now, so obviously Chris would know more about that, or someone that's actually living homelessness now would know. Back when I was doing it, I did my thing. That was what I did. Those were the things that I had trouble with. Now there's probably more things that people have trouble with. There's more dangers out there. There's more things you've got to worry about, more things you have to, do, and more, Chris was saying about looking for accommodation, even simple things of getting ID and stuff like that, So yeah, no, that feeling unsafe was a big thing.
And thanks for sharing that.
Domestic violence itself is not just in homes. So domestic violence will put someone on the street, and then that will still follow them onto the street as well. And it's always there. People will go looking for people with domestic violence, no matter where they are. So someone fleeing domestic violence, even if someone's not following them, they always think that someone is. So they'll keep moving over and over and over again.
I think if it's all right, I might just add something here. And that's just we're thinking about these very immediate impacts on people, but there's actually a lot of really long-term impacts that happen because of this. So the cost to people's health is really huge. And when people are living in this kind of situation where they're moving around a lot and they might not be able to afford their medication, sometimes their health can get worse and worse. And so there's actually an increased cost to our health system. And so there's a big cost to the person because of the impact on their personal health and their well-being. And there's also a cost on our systems, which, as we know, are under a lot of strain.
So people on the street, premature aging is now something that's acknowledged. So someone that lives long-term on the street will age faster than the average person. So someone that has spent long-term on the street is acknowledged that at the age of 50 to 55 now that they'll have the bodies of a 7-year-old. And getting healthcare while you're on the street too. If you need an operation, you will not get it while you're on the street, even if it is to save your life, because the hospital will not do an operation on someone, then discharge them back to the street where they can catch an infection. They will not do the operation in the first place. So someone that needs life-saving operation will have it denied without an address.
Or someone will end up staying in a bed in the hospital because there's nowhere for them to go. And that puts a lot of pressure downstream because that bed's taken up with someone who can't leave.
And sometimes it's too also the fact that they don't go to a doctor. Because why would they go to a doctor? They can't write their own name and they can't sign it. And when you go to a doctor, you got to fill out paperwork. Who's on the street wants to fill out paperwork, mate? They don't know half the stuff they got to put on that paperwork, you know, and half of them get refused medical attention as well because obviously they're on the street. So why would I give you medication when you're going to get bronchitis next week? You know, so it's getting refused that medical as well that cause a lot of issues.
And being refused medical help is what leads people to substance abuse as well, because if you cannot get medication from a doctor, and you can get it from wherever you can make your life more comfortable. And then that leads people down to a long-term habit that then is not easy to get back off of again.
Right. Any other questions? Councillor Kendall?
Yeah, thank you. Just wanted to say thanks so much, Tyson, for sharing your story, and it means a lot to me, and I think it's had a big impact on all of us. So thanks so much for that. And for all of you for bringing those stories from, you know, behind the lines, because I feel like all of us are only ever a few unfortunate, you know, events away from homelessness ourselves. So we should never be complacent. And so I just had a question sort of along the planning lines. I'm really happy that we've got our statement on housing, our commitment on housing and the apartment specific area plan. So I guess a question for one of the planning crew, just how much uptake have we had of those people developing above shops and commercial premises in the area?
Yeah, so not a lot, to be honest. So the planning scheme amendments have been made. Kind of just need the first, I guess you call it prototype or cab off the rank to kickstart everything to show people that the business case stacks up. We do have a live application with us at the moment on Main Road, which we're working through the planning process. So if that makes it all the way through the process, that'd be really important for Glenorchy because that could really start to kickstart things.
Great. Yeah, I just noticed the numbers about the need for smaller dwellings. So yeah, that'd be great if it could kick off somehow.
Are there any more questions from anyone who'd like to ask? No? Anyone from the floor? No? Okay, well, councils get a lot of criticism for all sorts of reasons, and often we're told to stick to our knitting of roads, rates and rubbish. But a civilised society, as far as I'm concerned, is one that tries to reach out and take care of its own and anyone visiting who feels safer in Glenorchy perhaps than somewhere else. So we can't build a thriving community without regard to the social issues that are impacting some of the people in our city. So I want to thank you all for sharing the stories. I'm very familiar with some of the conversations you were talking about, Chris. I tried to help a person get some bowel cancer treatment and they couldn't get it because they didn't have a fixed address to go or someone to care for them for the next 24 hours. I did manage to get them into a backpackers, but I was away and no one checked on them or gave them water or food or anything else. So some of those issues are really horrendous, and unless you're connected to the front line, you don't understand the significance of one particular man had been homeless for 10 years, and he described to me how many nights it took for him to get used to putting the coffee cup down without looking for a flat rock. He just wasn't used to flat surface to put hot drink on. And also switching the light on and off. Just he said he sat there most of the night just flicking it on and off because he had control over the light for the first time. Thank you so much for what you do for the community, all of you. Particular thanks to the staff of Glenorchy City Council for the outreach that you do, and I'll defend you, as will all of the members of this council, to the hilt. Because we are more than roads, rates and rubbish. We're all about residents and real people. Thank you. So everyone online, thank you for watching tonight's open council meeting. And please join us again for the next one, which will be up soon.